Napoleon's rise from obscurity to emperor. Imagine a man who rose from obscurity to become one of history's greatest military leaders. His name was Napoleon Bonaparte, a figure whose ambition and strategic genius left an indelible mark on the world stage. Born on the island of Corsica in 1769, Napoleon Bonaparte's journey was anything but ordinary. His early years were shaped by the rugged landscape and a burgeoning sense of purpose that would guide his future endeavors. At the age of 9, he was sent to mainland France for military schooling, showing early signs of brilliance. His sharp intellect and determination quickly distinguished him from his peers. By 16, he graduated as a second lieutenant in the artillery, eager to make his mark. His technical expertise and relentless drive positioned him for rapid advancement in the tumultuous times ahead. The French Revolution provided a turbulent backdrop that was perfect for Napoleon's rise to power. Amidst the chaos and political upheaval, his military prowess and strategic acumen began to shine, setting the stage for his extraordinary ascent in the ranks. In 1793, during the siege of Toulon, Napoleon demonstrated his exceptional leadership and tactical genius. Capturing the city from British forces, he earned widespread acclaim and a promotion to brigadier general, marking the beginning of his meteoric rise. By 1796, Napoleon was entrusted with the command of the French army in Italy. Leading his troops to a series of stunning victories, he showcased his brilliance in strategy and cemented his status as a formidable military leader. His Egyptian campaign in 1798, though controversial, further highlighted his ambitious nature and strategic ingenuity. Despite mixed outcomes, Napoleon's efforts to expand French influence and his scholarly pursuits in Egypt added to his growing legend. In 1799, seizing the moment, Napoleon orchestrated the coup of 18 Brumaire. Overthrowing the Directory, he established himself as the first consul of France, effectively assuming dictatorial powers and positioning himself as the nation's paramount leader. Napoleon reformed the French legal system with the Napoleonic Code, a series of laws that streamlined and modernized French civil law. This code emphasized clear, accessible laws and individual rights, profoundly influencing legal systems worldwide and forming the foundation for many modern legal structures. In 1804, Napoleon crowned himself Emperor of the French in a grand ceremony at Notre Dame Cathedral. This move solidified his control over France and symbolized the pinnacle of his power. His ambition and vision reshaped the nation, establishing a powerful and centralized government. Known for his innovative military strategies, Napoleon reshaped modern warfare. His tactics, such as the use of mass conscription and the strategic deployment of artillery, revolutionized battlefield dynamics. His ability to outmaneuver and outthink his enemies earned him legendary status among military leaders. In 1805, Napoleon achieved a masterpiece victory at the Battle of Austerlitz, often considered his greatest triumph. Facing Russian and Austrian forces, he executed a brilliant plan, feigning weakness to lure the enemy into a trap. His decisive win solidified his reputation as a military genius. To weaken Britain's economic power, Napoleon established the continental system, an extensive economic blockade. By prohibiting European nations from trading with Britain, he aimed to cripple its economy. Although the plan had mixed results, it showcased his strategic thinking beyond the battlefield. The Peninsular War in Spain tested Napoleon's empire's resilience, leading to a prolonged conflict. Guerrilla warfare drained resources and morale, as Spanish and Portuguese forces, aided by the British, engaged in relentless resistance against French occupation. This war marked a significant strain on his military. In 1812, Napoleon embarked on his ambitious invasion of Russia, a campaign that turned disastrous. The harsh Russian winter, vast distances, and scorched earth tactics devastated his Grande army. The failure of this campaign marked the beginning of Napoleon's decline, revealing vulnerabilities. Coming from a modest family, young Napoleon had dreams far beyond his humble beginnings. His father's connections enabled him to pursue an education that would set the stage for his meteoric rise. The retreat from Moscow was a catastrophic chapter in Napoleon's military career. Facing brutal winter conditions, starvation, and relentless attacks from Russian forces, his army suffered massive losses. This retreat significantly weakened his once formidable military strength, shattering his invincible image. In 1813, the Battle of Leipzig, also known as the Battle of Nations, was a devastating defeat for Napoleon. Allied forces from Russia, Prussia, Austria, and Sweden united to crush his army. This pivotal battle marked the downfall of his empire's dominance in Europe. In 1814, following his defeat at Leipzig, Napoleon was exiled to the island of Elba. Stripped of his power but not his ambition, he bided his time, planning his return. Even in exile, his story was far from over, awaiting a dramatic resurgence. Napoleon's dramatic escape from Elba in 1815 electrified Europe. Against all odds, he landed in France and marched towards Paris, gathering a growing army of loyal supporters. His return marked a brief but intense period known as the 100 Days. During the 100 Days, Napoleon swiftly re-established his role, implementing reforms and rallying the nation. The European powers, however, were determined to end his reign once and for all. Tensions mounted as they prepared for a decisive confrontation. At the Battle of Waterloo, Napoleon faced a formidable coalition led by the Duke of Wellington and the Prussian army. Despite his strategic brilliance, the sheer strength of the Allied forces overwhelmed him. This battle marked the end of his military ambitions. After his defeat at Waterloo, Napoleon was captured and exiled to the remote island of St. Helena, Indiana, the Atlantic Ocean. Far from the political intrigues of Europe, he lived under strict surveillance, isolated and stripped of power. On St. Helena, Napoleon spent his final years reflecting on his tumultuous life and dictating his memoirs. He died in 1821, leaving behind a controversial legacy marked by military genius, groundbreaking reforms, and the indelible impact he had on European history. Napoleon Bonaparte's death in 1821 marked the end of an era. Napoleonic Code has left a lasting legacy that continues to shape modern legal systems and governance structures around the world, underscoring his enduring significance. His life was an office of complexity, tapestry of ambition, resilience, and the intricate dance of power. From his meteoric rise to his ultimate downfall. The burial of Napoleon. He was buried on St. Helena, Indiana, the Valley of the Willows, in a grave marked only by a simple stone slab. His wish to be buried on the banks of the Seine was ignored by the British authorities. His legacy and memory, after his death, legend grew. Romantic poets and artists portrayed him as a tragic hero, while his supporters in France, known as Bonapartists, kept his memory alive. Exhumation in 1840, almost 20 years after his death, King Louis Philippe of France requested that Napoleon's remains be returned to France. The British government agreed, and his remains were exhumed and transported back to France on a ship named the Bellepoule. Napoleon's body arrived in Paris on December 15, 1840, in a grand ceremony. Thousands of people lined the streets to pay their respects. His remains were placed in a sarcophagus and interred in a specially designed tomb at Les Invalides, a military hospital and veterans' retirement home in Paris. Restoration of the monarchy. After Napoleon's defeat at the Battle of Waterloo in 1815, the Bourbon monarchy was restored in France under King Louis XVIII. The Congress of Vienna, held from 1814 to 1815, aimed to restore Europe's political landscape to its pre-Napoleonic state, promoting a balance of power to prevent any single nation from dominating the continent as France had under Napoleon. The Congress of Vienna was a pivotal event in European history, chaired by Austrian statesman Clemens von Metternich. The Congress sought to contain the spread of revolutionary ideals and maintain the traditional monarchies. It established a conservative order that suppressed nationalist and liberal movements but could not entirely extinguish the fires ignited by the Napoleonic Wars. Rise of nationalism. Napoleon's conquests spread the ideas of the French Revolution, including nationalism and the concept of self-determination. Even though the Congress of Vienna tried to suppress these movements, the seeds of nationalism continued to grow. The Holy Alliance, formed by Russia, Austria, and Prussia, the alliance aimed to preserve the conservative order established by the Congress of Vienna. These powers worked together to suppress revolutionary movements and maintain the status quo, though they were often at odds with growing nationalist sentiments. Louis Napoleon Bonaparte, in 1848, amid widespread revolutionary fervor across Europe, Louis Napoleon Bonaparte, Napoleon's nephew, was elected president of the French Second Republic. His popularity was largely due to his association with his uncle's legacy. In 1852, after a coup d'état, he declared himself Emperor Napoleon III, establishing the Second French Empire. In Napoleon III's reign, he sought to emulate his uncle's achievements, both domestically and abroad. He embarked on ambitious public works projects, modernizing Paris and other French cities, and pursued an active foreign policy. However, his reign ended in disaster during the Franco-Prussian War of 1870, when he was captured by the Prussians and subsequently deposed. The defeat led to the establishment of the Third Republic in France. Romanticism and Napoleon's life and career became a central theme in the Romantic movement, which celebrated individualism, heroism, and the sublime. Writers like Lord Byron and Victor Hugo, and composers like Ludwig van Beethoven, were deeply influenced by the figure of Napoleon. Napoleon's final years in exile on St. Helena were marked by reflection and introspection. Even in isolation, his mind remained sharp, dictating memoirs that would further cement his place in history and offer insight into his extraordinary life and mind. Beethoven originally dedicated his Third Symphony, the Eroica, to Napoleon but later retracted the dedication in disillusionment with Napoleon's self-coronation as emperor. Napoleon in literature and art, his image as a tragic hero and a larger-than-life figure persisted throughout the 19th century. Works such as Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace depict Napoleon's invasion of Russia, and artists like Jacques-Louis David immortalized him in paintings. This cultural portrayal contributed to the mythologization of Napoleon as both a great leader and a cautionary figure. Bonapartism as a political ideology. Bonapartism, that emerged from Napoleon's rule, advocated for a strong, centralized state led by a charismatic leader who embodies the will of the people. A precursor to later forms of authoritarian populism and had a lasting influence on French politics. Attempts to restore the Bonaparte dynasty. The impact on Latin America and the Napoleonic Wars indirectly influenced the independence movements in Latin America. The Napoleonic legend, after his death, grew, portraying him as a martyr who was unjustly defeated and exiled by a coalition of reactionary powers. This legend was perpetuated by his supporters and contributed to the enduring fascination with his life. Historical revisionism over time have re-evaluated Napoleon's legacy, debating whether he was a champion of the revolution's ideals or a dictator who betrayed them. Leaders like Simon Bolivar and José da San Martin were inspired by the ideals of the French Revolution and the military successes of Napoleon. If you found Napoleon's story inspiring, give us a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more incredible tales from history. Let these stories fuel your own ambitions and remind you that greatness often begins with a single, determined step.